everybody. Welcome to The Right Conversation with Shari Pheasant, where we talk about the hard stuff. I get into the real good things that you really want to hear when you listen into conversations with people. Look, communication isn't the biggest problem on a team. The biggest problem on a team is not having the right conversation soon enough. And the right conversation is really about 5 factors. Talking to the right person about the right thing at the right time, with the right tone and intonation, and with the right intentions. So join me for the right conversations that I have with my guests, and you get to hear all about the hard stuff. You're going to love this. So let's dig in.
Absolutely. Yeah,
I like it. So you've been through some different training. Tell me about some of the good things and maybe some of the not so good things that weren't as worthwhile as you thought they would have been.
So in terms of trainings, I mean, obviously I've, with working with you, Shari, for all the years I've known you now, which is kind of crazy how fast time has gone, but just understanding the DISC personality assessment that I've, done with you several times now over the years, because as you said, people do change, and I have changed, I have evolved, and that test definitely proves that. And I think honestly, just understanding how that works and being able to apply it to my life, and then understanding how other people fall on the DISC scale, and understanding that not everybody's going to think like me, not everybody's going to act this way. But when I interact with certain people of a different DISC profile, how do I adjust? How do I adapt? And so that to me has been instrumental. I really enjoy getting to know you through that process, getting to know myself better through that process, understanding you and I, how much alike we really are. We have our differences, but I think we're very much alike. And I think that's what drew us together years ago when we were introduced through that mentorship program in the Women in Auto Care Association. So so I would say that's probably the best I've had in terms of training. I've taken a lot of assessments over the years. Some of them, my current company uses the PI assessment. I don't mind that one. I would say it's definitely not nearly as robust as DISC. And I think
say it again. And actually, and so it's not right. Ours is Talent Insights. So it shows DISC, but it also shows your driving forces, right? What motivates you, and then how you see the world and see yourself. We call it 5 sciences of self. So it includes DISC, and that's the beginning of it. But Ashley's had all of the 5 sciences, including EQ, to understand, right? Humans are not, linear. We are not linear. We're very complex. And so I that's why I love it. And thank you for saying that. I know everyone finds their own assessment that they want. However, thank you. That was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it's lengthy, so it could be daunting and overwhelming to somebody who's not really into that stuff or doesn't know, or they're afraid to see their results. But I think the more truth you put into the answers, the better your results will be, because it'll be revealing, like you call it, your naked self. Like, who are you beneath everything? And I think as long as you're honest and willing to answer them accurately as you can in that moment, it'll do wonders and helping you understand you a little bit better, and also other people around you. So
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to change the subject back to the PI and compare.
Oh, well, let's not compare. We already know
Well,
who's bad.
contrast.
We don't want to rub it in. Oh. So I think about the things you're talking about, and let's talk about leadership, right? Because stress in leadership really has a negative effect. 66% of people are reporting that they lose sleep because of work stress. The things are disconnected. You're having an amazing experience now. However, I'm sure you've seen, and you do see how the experience isn't so good. And they're working 40 or more hours a week. You bring that mood home with you, and it changes your life. So what's happening at work is important. And I think if our recent pandemic did something for us, it was show us how important that truly is. So how do you think that understanding yourself from the inside out, like maybe even shifting your perceptions, how you thought other people saw you, right? Or how you showed up, does that help not be so stressed in your leadership? Because you're in a dynamic situation. It could be stressful, and it seems like it's really not for you.
I mean, it is stressful. I won't lie and sugarcoat it and say I'm not stressed, and that's why I asked for the help. I was getting to that point where I just felt like I was
Mhm.
drowning and I could not get above water. Like I would get up here and then back down. And it just felt like I was constantly and it's not bad. Like I don't want anybody listening to think this is a negative experience. This was good
Mhm.
for me because I
Normal.
realized what my potential was. I was like, okay, here I'm at my max. Like I can't take on anything else and do it effectively. Could I get it
Mhm.
done? Probably. Is it going to be done well? Probably not. So there's a huge
Oh, what
difference. So
honesty. People
yeah,
won't
yeah,
admit that, Ashley. That's great.
yeah. I mean, I think that's a good place to start. So I don't know. I apologize. I think I'm getting off track from your question, but
You're you're
yeah,
not. This is about sharing. I think it's that, right, that stress is a big deal when you know who you are and how you show up. How does it help you so you're not stressed, right? Because
Mhm.
you have been and you said, look, you know what? I am stressed, but you're not, it's not overtaking you. You did get a little deep. I saw it with your hands,
Yeah,
but you've been
yeah.
able to get out. And so do you think that you relied on what you know about yourself to be true versus what you thought you had to be 10 years ago? See what I mean? Like if you had used the skill set you had adapted in from 10 years ago in your current stress situation, maybe you wouldn't have acted the same way or made the same choices. Now that you have your perspective and how you see things, you have different choices that lay out before you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say if me 10 years ago was in the position I'm in now, I don't think I would be there. I probably would have left. I probably would have went and did something else because I didn't have the patience. A lot of things happen at my current company. That's a slower paced organization. It's definitely not fast paced, and there's nothing wrong with that. It is different than what I was used to prior to coming to my current company. And so if I had just jumped right in to my current role 10 years ago when I was a different person. And it probably wouldn't have been, it would have spelled disaster. When I came in, though, I had time to like ease into all this. It wasn't like I got this busy overnight. This has been 7 years in the making. So our company has grown tremendously. And that's part of the reason for the increased tasks and responsibilities that are coming onto my shoulders. It's not because we had people leaving and people trying to, throw things off to me. It's really because of the growth of our company. So with growth,
Nice.
you're going to need more staff, and that's just where we're at. And we've grown from about 15 people in marketing, and we're up to like 24, 25 now since I started. So I mean, we've got a lot of people in the team, and it's great, and we're going to continue to grow. So yeah.
And that's wonderful. Growth can be painful. It sounds like growth is not so painful for y'all. I mean, it can
Mhm.
get stressful, but you're really managing it. And I think it says a lot that your company has brought in some training for y'all. I think that many companies, if you haven't done it already, you need to bring in training. There needs to be outside influence for your team that helps. Leaders are not responsible for doing it all on their own. And Ashley, that says a lot for your leaders of the company that they're not trying to be everything for everybody.
Yeah, no, they're not. And we have a team dedicated. So most companies just have HR. We have HR, but we also have a whole team called corporate care, and
Mhm.
they're there for the employees, and that team keeps growing as well. And so corporate care is the team that is actually doing all this training, and that's part of their responsibility is to train employees, bring up leaders, kind of be like that mentor for the average employee. Like if they're stressed about something and they need to vent or talk about it, those people are there for that reason. So our company is really good about giving back to people. They love to feed us. So they are very, very giving and very, very nice people. It's a good company. I don't want anybody listening to think otherwise. But it is a lot different than a lot of large corporate organizations that are out there. So it's a very different environment. And it's something I had to get used to. It was a little bit of a culture shock when I came in like seven-ish years ago. So yeah, but I'm used to it now. So it would be really hard for me to probably transition back into the more traditional corporate environment that I was used to before I came here.
I bet it would because it was very different. And I remember part of that transition with you in some of our conversations. And if I remember correctly, like one of the things that kept you there through some of it, I mean, I know it was great in the company, but I remember you saying, I've got to make sure I have a long time on my resume. My other two jobs are 3 years and 2 years. I want to make sure, which is really odd. And I'm pointing it out because everyone thinks millennials jump from job to job. And I highly disagree, or Gen X jump from job to job. And I highly disagree. I think that we've made some assumptions about the new workforce that are not healthy for them and not healthy for our relationship with them. And you probably don't experience that much where you're at right now, or do you? Do you see some of that?
Honestly, most people that are close to my age, I am a millennial. I'm kind of in the middle of the millennial generation. So, I think most people that are close to my age at the company have been there for a while and they want to stay. We do like the culture. We love working with each other. We have a great environment. There's no drama. But I think honestly, millennials get a bad name, and maybe in other areas it would be different. I think it just depends on where you're at, and that will change. But around here, and even the friends I have, like I have a couple of just close girlfriends that I chat with all the time from like high school, and they've kept their jobs for many, many years. And like both of them, I think, have had their jobs over 10 years. And so they've stuck around. So and then one works in Cleveland and she's a paralegal. One works in a smaller town and she's a social worker. And so it's just, two completely different dynamics. And they're staying, and I think it's a loyalty thing, and I think as long as we feel like we're being treated fairly, we will stay. I can't speak for all millennials. I'm not speaking for the whole
And growing
generation.
now. No, sure, but
Yeah.
in growing, millennials want to grow. They want to be involved in a bigger purpose. I
Yeah.
think you have that at your company. You're
Yeah.
growing. It
Mhm.
is a bigger purpose. They talk about the things that they do in the world and how they make their community better, and that feels good as well to work for a company that does that. So I think it's awesome to see your growth. And remember when I met Ashley, she had just written a chapter in a women's leadership book. Do you remember what the chapter was about, Ashley?
Yeah, it's funny because I was going through my books. In fact, they're in that wrong way. That little copper tin behind me, down there on the floor. It's I had a book in there, and that's the book I wrote a chapter in, and it was called The Recipe of Life, and how everyone's life is different. I think I compared it to baking a cake, or like any type of anything you would bake, and how you have different spices and seasonings, and basically that represents all the different things that are happening to you, all the sprinkles, all the sugar, the flour. They're all different ingredients, and you have thousands of different types of cakes and cookies out there to like choose from. So all of us are also different, and our recipes are different. And I think at that time I was going through a very big change where I was supposed to move to Dallas, Texas for a job in the automotive industry, and unfortunately, due to different circumstances, that just didn't work out. But I was able to get back on my feet after a few months and found a different job. It's still in that industry. And so, yeah, I was at a big transition in my life where, being unemployed for those few months it was tough. I had always worked since I was 16 years old. And here I was out of college, had my first job, and then get my second job, thought it was going to go as planned, and it didn't. So it was just like a big pivotal moment for me. And thankfully, I was young enough at that point. I had no big financial obligations like a mortgage like I do now, things like that. So it was a good time for me to kind of regroup and figure out something else.
Yeah, feel out your oats and see what you can make happen. Absolutely. And I
Absolutely.
think I hear a really cool message there too, Ashley, right? Is that, embrace what you're going through because it's not forever. You have the ability to make change and shift in dynamics, and there's no guarantees. So whatever you get, you get. And sometimes you plan and it's totally different. And that's okay too. Life is messy and progress is messy, and development is messy. And we all know we love change, don't we? Well, I do. I just saying, but that's me, and I'm not like many, and I get it. So I think it sounds like you have a really positive story for professional women of how you never know what's around the corner. Just keep making the best of the ingredients that you have.
Absolutely. And you can always
Nice.
add new ingredients.
Right? I would like it to be a little spicier today. Yes, that would be great. Yes. So,
Absolutely.
I work with a lot of women. In fact, I'm working with a board of directors of women, and they come from different companies, and they're in the same industry. And there's a huge dynamic with women and leadership and companies today. What are you seeing on the horizon for women today professionally?
I think in general, women are definitely on the rise. I've personally seen it even at my own company, where I think I had mentioned already, where It's very male dominated, more of like a faith-based company, a little bit more conservative. So it was typically a lot more men at the top. And while it's still heavily dominated that way, I have even seen a shift where I work, and more females getting promoted, at least to like the director level. We have a couple up toward our VP level now, which wasn't like that whenever I started 7 years ago. So just, and even that, with being in a smaller, more rural area in Ohio, I can only imagine how much more that has been multiplied in larger cities and bigger, bigger areas. And I do think just seeing things on LinkedIn pop up, like a female CEO of this company or that company, I see that more and more as well. And so it gives me hope that, there's definitely, it's still going to keep changing and keep getting better. And while I don't get me wrong, I don't think every woman or every leadership person should be a woman. I think there's a great balance, a healthy balance of all different diversities. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I totally hear what you're saying, and diversity, right, of thought, and everybody being diverse in the leadership is really important to the dynamics of the and the flow of the entire team. Right, because not everybody can relate to the same person. We need to have a lot of different styles that are present for each other, and that. So I agree with you. I think we're starting to feel the broken rung. That's the directors and the mid management. There was a big push at first that all of a sudden you had a bunch of female CEOs, and to me, the companies were checking a box. I got a girl in there. I got a girl, or I got the woman in there. And I think women really started responding with, look, don't promote me because I'm a female. Promote me because I can do the job. And that's why I want to be promoted. I don't want to be your token female. I want to be promoted because that's the job I do. There's no shortcut for us, right? We're willing to take the long haul. And I always tell everybody, it's not a glass ceiling. By the way, glass breaks. It is the broken rung. Because when you have a broken rung in a ladder and maybe two of them, how do you get from one to where you are to where the next one is? It's very difficult. And so those are the things that we need to work on. And it sounds like that's the way your company's taking it. They're starting to fill the broken rung.
Yeah. And it's refreshing because I wasn't sure where that was going to go, just based on, when I started and kind of where it was for like the first 4 to 5 years of my career there. And then over the last couple of years, there have been a lot of great positive changes. So yeah, so I'm excited about the future of the company and where we're headed, and the positive changes that are happening.
Yeah. So stick it out, ladies and gentlemen. Just because it isn't what you want it to be now doesn't mean that change isn't on the horizon. Companies and leaders are being very introspective. They are really starting to listen. And I think it's very possible to be heard and change a culture where you're at. Ashley, you have most certainly been a part of that. And I think that's awesome that I had an opportunity to be one of the many people that help develop you into the amazing leader that you are today. And remember, you are a great part of that as well. Because as I know, right, we can teach, but if people don't embrace and listen and give it a try, then all of our hot air goes nowhere, pretty much. Right? Well, and just a little bit personal before we get to our just one thing. We're getting towards the end of our podcast. We have 2 here. This is our second one that we're in right now. If you missed the first one, please go back. Our conversation just kept going. And so we kept talking, because if you're having the right conversation, don't stop, make time and make it happen. Ashley, what do you think that women could change today to put themselves on a different trajectory than where they are? I think some women get stuck. They go through the burnout. Every now and then we get the victim mentality. I don't really want to dig into that. We need you to help yourself. That's where we're at. What is a shift that maybe you made that you'd love to share with others, and that women can make to really change where they're at from today?
I think a couple things come to mind. One, I mentioned earlier about asking questions. Don't be afraid to ask, because you won't get anywhere in life, personally or professionally, without asking questions. And so that's how I got to where I'm at. I asked, and it didn't happen the first time, like I said, but it will eventually happen if you're persistent and in a professional, respectable way, without being too pushy. And just continue to ask those questions, continue to be a little bit vulnerable and willing to understand that no could be an answer, but that's okay. Just give it another shot.
Right. And that's personal because Ashley's sharing from her personal experience as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you had a little bit more to share. Yes.
I did. And now I lost my train of thought.
Dang, that happens.
That's okay. It might come to me in a second.
It's all right. You have a lot of great things to say, Ashley. And I also know you do some traveling. So I've checked you out. We're connected. And what is your favorite place that you've been?
Oh, I have fallen in love with like Colorado and the Rocky Mountains. Like I have been like, and then being out, even also out in Tahoe with you. When I went out there, I just love nature. Like Ohio is nice. So where I live, there's like nice rolling hills. The other side of Ohio on the western side is very flat. Like I don't like it. I love having some type of rolling hill or mountain. So going out west is just wonderful to me. So Colorado is probably my favorite, only because I have been out there a couple of times and got to do a lot of outdoorsy things and explored. So it's just, I don't know, it's just like a breath of fresh air, literally just breathing fresh air on the top of a mountain.
Oh, 100%. I lived in Colorado for several years. I think it was a little over a decade, and I love it myself. You did a Garden of the Gods, great place to go in Colorado. Lots of fun, and Pikes Peak, and just there's so much outdoor activity, and you're very outdoorsy. So that absolutely makes sense. And funny. She didn't expect me to share this, but you said something about rolling hills and you love rolling hills. And your fiance obviously knows you very well because he proposed on a
hill.
rolling hill. On a rolling hill. I mean, how cool is that? That's really awesome.
Yeah.
So something personal about Ashley today. She loves rolling hills, loves to travel, loves Colorado, and committed for forever on a rolling hill.
On a hill.
On a hill. That's wonderful, Ashley. All right. It's time for just one thing. If our listeners were going to carry just one thing with them from all of these great nuggets that you've given us today, what would be the just one thing you want them to remember?
Take the time to get to know yourself, because even though you might think you know who you are, and you might think assessments and tests are taboo, or they're going to be weird or scare you, take that jump, because getting to know yourself even better will lead you to more and more opportunities, and it will also help you understand other people better. So that's my little nugget.
Well, Ashley, we love your little nugget, and everybody get to know yourself. And if it's not with me, there's lots of other people that can do that with you. If I'm your girl, that's great, but I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay too. However, we've got some excellent things happening, and we're certifying people now, and there's just a lot of great things happening with our people first strategies that we do. Our partner TTI has been amazing for us because they provide accurate scientific data. They actually I got to tour, Ashley, the brain lab when I went down there this last week as part of the Saguaro group. And they will actually take individuals and help them change the way their brain works for them in a 6-month program. So talk about some real deep leadership work. Wow. That's just great.
That's crazy.
Right? Don't worry. You've got another 40 years in you, and you're never going to stop learning. I know that. Right? And so thank you, Ashley, for joining us today. Thank you, everybody else, for being here. I hope you listened to the right conversation, and I will see you. Thanks for joining me for that conversation. My goal is to change the world one conversation at a time. I hope you'll join me for other podcast guests while we talk about the hard stuff and really dig in. If you love what you hear, like, share, and repost so we can grow this podcast. I hope to see you on the inside.